We're with Steve Miner in Winnebago, Minnesota, and Steve is, I don't know if you can see all of it on screen here, but is quite a collector, has been for many years, and you've got a very impressive hams collection. But you got into this, I guess, back in the late 70s or somewhere
Early
around
70s,
there.
actually. Early
And
70s.
let's talk about, just for a minute, what actually, since you were a key figure in starting this club, but what actually drove you into collecting? How did that get started?
Well, it was interesting. There was two other guys that lived here in town, and all three of us worked for the Chrysler dealer in Blue Earth, Minnesota, which is 9 miles south of here. And after work, we'd always get a six-pack for the ride home. It was perfect. 9 miles, 2 beers each, perfect. You know, so whoever drove, they were responsible for buying the beer. And so we'd go down to the liquor store in Blue Earth there after work and go in, and it was whatever was on sale is basically what we bought. It was my turn to buy one day, and I had Schmidt Scenic cans on sale, and so I bought a six-pack of them and brought them out to the car, and we distributed them and headed home. And pretty soon one of the guys says, "What the hell are we drinking here?" He says, "I got an antelope beer," and I looked and I says, "Well, I got a moose beer," and the other guy says, "Well, I got a water skier," and I said, "Wait a minute, these are all different." And yeah, sure enough, I said, "Don't throw them away. Don't." You know, we had a hole in the back of the window where the speakers used to be, and we'd throw the empties down there, so they ended up in the trunk, which also became a dumping area out at Daly Park. That's another story. But anyway, so I said, don't throw them in the hole there. Let's put them back. And said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to see how many different ones there are." And so the next day, of course, it was my turn to begin to buy, because we each drove a week, and so I went in. I started searching through the six-packs to find 6 different ones. Owner of the liquor store, he says, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to see how many different ones there are." And he said, "I think there's 20 some." And I said, "Really?" I said, "That's cool." You know, so I got another six-pack, and I told the guys again, I said, don't throw them in the hole there. So I started stacking them on my counter at home. Well, in the meantime, this was when beer can collecting was really starting to get popular, and after about the 4th time doing this, the liquor store owner says, "Hey, come here, I'll show you something." And they had a little shelf area back towards the back of the liquor store there. They had various brands of beer, single cans that you could buy. Others like White Label and Chippewa Pride and Brunings from Rice Lake, and you know, brands I had never seen before. And they were selling these cans for $0.25 a piece. Oh, man, I couldn't get enough of them, you know. So I started stacking. I had a pretty good sized pyramid on my dresser at home. And my brother, of course, he got intrigued by that, and my younger brother, and you know, just to see how many the different ones are. There can't be that many, right? Well, meantime, the other guys at the shop, they found out I was collecting beer cans, and they would bring me 1 or 2 different ones that they'd find, whatever. And I got to the point where I had 50 or some cans. And the fellas that I worked for, they were both recovered alcoholics. They'd both been through spin dry. and one day we're sitting in the lunchroom, and the car wash detail guy come walking by, and he says, "So," he says, "Steve," he says, "how many cans you got in your collection now?" And about that time, the father of it was a father and a son that owned the dealership, stops dead in his tracks, and he looks at me, he says, "Don't tell me you collect beer cans." I said, "Wow," I said, they're empty." He said, "Oh, God," he said, "I thought my brother was the only one that did that." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah," he says, "my brother in Minnesota Lake," he says, "he collects beer cans too." I says, "Really? What's his name?" He said, "His name's Jay Smith." And I says, "Do you suppose he'd mind if I called him?" "No, I'll give him a call. Tell him you work for me." And he says, "You should see it. His whole basement's full of cans." And so I got home that night, and I looked in the phone book. Sure enough, Jay Smith, Minnesota Lake. So all the nerve I could do, I called him, and it sounded just like his brother, obviously, on the phone. He said, "Yeah, come on over." So I told my brother about this, and we couldn't wait for Saturday. We headed over to Minnesota Lake on that Saturday, and Margie Smith, Jay's wife, met us at the door. And I'll tell you, those people, I'll never, you know, they treated us like they'd known us all their lives. You know, and, "Well, come on in," you know. And so we walked down the basement, and we just absolutely about died. This entire basement was wall-to-wall cans. And here we had a pyramid of maybe 50 at home, and we thought we were the king of the world. And here Jay had an entire basement full of cans, and we were just absolutely. My ribs still got bruises on them from my brother nudging me, you know. And so we're looking at these cans, just absolutely astounded. And so Jake comes around, and he says, "Did you bring any traders with?" "Traders?" He said, "Well, yeah, you got extra cans?" He says, we'll trade cans for cans." And I says, "No, I don't have anything like that. I just got one of each." "Oh," he says, "you got to have extra ones to trade." So how many cans you got? And I says, oh, probably 50. Oh, okay. Margie says, get a couple flats. He's follow me. And so we went into another room equally as large as this first one. And here in this room, he had all these cans, all characterized on, and I later found this was his trading stock. And he takes, Margie brings in a couple flats, and he starts, you got this one, got this one, got this, he starts filling these things up. And I had $20 to my name in my pocket. I thought, and he's got this one, and he ended up like 5 cases of cans.
Wow.
And I looked at my brother, and he didn't have any money. And I says, he says, well, there, he shows these cans at me. He says, this will get you going. And I said, well, I said, I'm a little embarrassed. I said, I only got $20. He said, what? I said, yeah, I can pay you later. He says, you're not paying me for these. He says, that ain't the way this works. I said, what? No, he says, these are yours. He says, he says, this will get you started. And he says, you'll find some cans and just remember me. I said, really? He said, yeah. So we took those 5 cases of cans. I'll tell you what, we floated home. I mean, it was, now we had to have some shelves.
Yep.
So we went down to the lumber yard. My mom about crap, and because I was still living at home at the time, and me and my brother put up shelves in the porch, and we had a newfound beer can collection, and I say Jay Smith was the guy that got me started, and I paid him back many times, believe me, but what a great guy. I mean, he was but that's what it was all about back then.
Yeah.
That was what it was all about, and then he took me over and introduced me to another guy that lived in Mapleton, a guy by the name of Alfred Ravenhorse, who had an equally as impressive collection. And I mean, I felt like small fry compared to them guys,
Sure.
but you would never know it. I mean, they treated you just.
And of course, that was back in a day, I believe, when not a lot of money really changed
No,
hands.
absolutely
it was
not.
really trading this
Oh,
for
definitely.
that.
In fact, at that time at the show, if you had prices on your cans, you got kicked out. I mean, it was strictly trade only.
Yep.
And they actually had guides that would come out in the early days that this particular can would be a 6-for-1 can, or this can would be a 3-for-1 can. Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah. Well, the way that story started off, I probably should have people in editing put "professional drinker do not attempt at home" underneath on the caption for this. This is a great story. A lot of colorful stories, I'm sure, throughout the hobby, but that's one of my favorite ones of how somebody got into collecting, and a lot of color and interest to that. And that, of course, led to other bigger and better things that we're going to talk about here as we keep moving on with the history of the Shell's Border Batch.